Welcome to the Mindset RX podcast, a show for functional athletes who want to gain a champ's mindset. And I realize I say that at the beginning, or a variation of that at the beginning of each one of these podcasts. So I figured it would be a good time just to occasionally, sporadically even drop in, like, what do I mean by that? If you are an athlete who wants to overcome negativity, if you want to conquer the thoughts that you've got inside your own head, if you want to finally stop self-sabotaging, or you just want to live in a happier, healthier place, like, this is the show for you. Similarly, if you're a coach who wants to get the best out of your athletes, if you are a coach who sees your athletes self-sabotaging, going through all those things that I just spoke about, and much more, then this is the show for you too, because when I speak to one of you, I'm speaking to both of you, okay? So this is for you. Before I get into the show, it's a really good chance to say that if you are a coach, there's something very special coming up in the free Facebook group that I run, or that Mindset RX runs, called Mindset for Functional Athletes. There's a link in the show notes of this podcast, or in the description of this podcast. So if you go into your phone or whatever, however you're listening to this podcast, and look in the description, there's a link to say Mindset for Functional Athletes or free support group, something like that. Get in there, because there's some super interesting opportunities coming up for coaches in particular, and also aspiring coaches too. If you're someone who wants to become a coach, then this is for you, especially if mindset is your interest, which it probably is because you're listening to this show. So today's story sounds like I'm reading children's book. Today's topic is something that's very pertinent in the Mindset RX coaching certification at the moment. And the reason being is because these guys and girls in these in the process are in the final process now, or the final phase of the process, which, we've gone through the self phase. We've spoken about what they have been doing personally and kind of uplifted a lot of their mindset, and definitely brought to surface a lot of ways they were self-sabotaging, didn't even realize, and they've got a much better grasp on their own mindset now. And then we went into knowledge phase, where I taught them all about what they need to know in order to teach it. And now finally we're in the third phase, which is where they begin coaching themselves first and foremost, which is a very difficult thing to do. Of course, I'm still there to offer perspective. But the reason that I'm bringing this up is because the other part of the third phase is that they begin to coach themselves, where I will give them case studies. And this one is all about an athlete who just wants to get there quicker than possible, as quick as possible, who's in what I call a chaser mindset, who just wants to go. So I'm talking to them about this kind of athlete, and I described him, and he's the one that I brought up is based heavily on one of the athletes that I serve, but it's also a combination of a few, just to give them a bit of a bit more to think about. And it's the first one of these videos that these guys are going to be doing, the guys in the Mindset RX coaching certification. And they're going to have to post up themselves talking to an imaginary athlete, a video of that, for me to assess. And not only for me to assess, but also for themselves to assess, and all their insecurities and vulnerabilities and potential weaknesses and lack of knowledge in a certain area, and inadequacies or potential inadequacies, to be shown to themselves and also everyone else in the group. Now, I've been speaking to most of these athletes, dropping them lines, letting them know how they're getting on. And what I hear from lots of them is, because I posted this on Monday, and it's now Friday when I'm recording this. So I posted the task on Monday. I gave them the 10-day deadline, and no one's posted it up yet. And I speak to them, and it's I've recorded it. Someone said 83 times. I'm sure that's an exaggeration. I've recorded it 83 times, and I just cannot. I cannot get it right. And this is indicative of the classic myth of perfectionism. And it's not just if you're a Mindset RX coach, or on the cusp of becoming a Mindset RX coach, that if it hinders you, because it affects us in all ways of life too. Just look at your programming. Do you always follow a consistent program? Or do you hop around from program to program? Or do you not really commit to a program? Or do you just do what you feel like you want to do? Look at nutrition. Have you really committed to your goals? Like, are you like waiting out on the perfect nutrition program, and actually in the process you're just eating crap, even though you know what you should be doing and you could get 80% of the results, but you're just waiting out for the perfect opportunity to arise. Maybe you're waiting for the perfect opportunity of a coach to work with, and you need the money to get there, but it's not really like you feel like you've got to wait for it to be perfect to make a better life. What about mobility too? Are you not doing your mobility because you don't know the perfect exercise to be doing right now? Because you've got knee pain or shoulder pain or neck pain, but what is the root cause? You don't know for sure, and you're not sure of the perfect outcome, so you don't do anything about it, or you don't do enough about it. And the injury rehab too, and generally kind of like mobility work, it happens the same. But then also we look at coaching, and it's rife in coaching. Like, so many coaches that I watch have this lack of self-confidence in what they're teaching. And this lack of self-confidence is because they are sometimes so focused on what is perfect and comparing themselves to the perfect outcome, whether that is another coach in the gym or another coach just elsewhere, who they in their mind is doing it perfectly, and they compare themselves to that idea of perfection. And it manifests itself in life generally. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh yeah, this is applying to the rest of my life too, you're exactly right, because so many of us live by this rule of I've got to achieve perfection, and anything less than perfection is not good enough. And this is a shitty place to live. We know this on the surface, that we know that perfection is not a great place to be. So why? Like, why do we seek perfection? Because by seeking perfection, our subconscious knows that this is an impossibility. Our subconscious knows that we cannot be perfect. So our subconscious also knows that because of this, we're not going to take any action. And this inaction is a protective mechanism, because it's keeping you safe. This inaction is keeping you safe from failure. And this is the way that your subconscious mind sees it. It wants to, as I spoke about in my emails recently, and I spoke about in the podcast recently, what your mind is doing is it's seeking order and stability and safety and certainty. But growth doesn't come from any of those things. Growth comes from truly dancing with uncertainty and variety and possibility and change and hope. That is the interplay between chaos and order that we need to seek. So not only is your desire for perfectionism stopping you from failing, it's also stopping you from succeeding too. Your success lies outside of perfectionism. Success lies in the mantra, progress over perfection. And what you've got to remember is that inaction is a choice too. Your inaction not to go towards your dreams and dance with the possibility of failure, that is a choice, and you have made that choice. It feels like you're not making a choice, and you feel like you're kind of stepping back away from responsibility, but you have responsibility over your life, and you have responsibility over your outcome, and your responsibility is to work that interplay, is to work the interplay between success and failure, chance and certainty. That is your interplay, the light and the dark. You can almost look at it that way. It's riddled throughout mythology. But anyway, the answer lies in those three words: progress over perfection. When you look for progress instead of perfection, you improve. And that's all we're trying to do. Your job isn't to be better than everyone else in the world. The job is to be better than you were yesterday. And it's so tempting to compare ourselves to the perfect outcome, whereas in reality, all we have to do is compare ourselves to the moment beforehand, because there's going to be slip-ups, there's going to be there's going to be imperfections, and perfection is that impossibility that you'll never hit. So what we do is we look for progress, and leave that to embed over the weekend. Listen to yourself and how you can create progress over perfection. If you feel that someone that you know needs to hear this message too, share this with them. Send it to them through iTunes or Facebook or however you're going to share the link. Just share it with them, because I know there's athletes that you know that will need to hear this. If you've got like a Facebook group with all your athletes in, like send it to them. If you're a coach who has athletes, send it to them too. And if you're just got some friends that you think would find this useful, send it to them, because there's people that do need to hear this, and it will massively improve their life when they do. So of course, if you enjoyed the show too, head over to iTunes, leave a 5-star review, and that is a massive benefit, not only to me personally, and I appreciate the favor, but also to the other athletes who will find it, who are probably struggling with the same things that you either used to struggle with or struggle with yourself. So they'll massively appreciate that too. Anyway, enjoy your weekend if you're listening to this on Friday or Saturday or Sunday, and I'll speak to you all very soon.